Okay, I now have the other 4 of the 5 gun assemblies assembled. And you remember we were missing one piece. I still haven't come across it. I'm pretty sure I nipped it off. Like I say, I might have sucked it up in the vacuum cleaner. But you know what? It really doesn't matter because we only need 5 of these, and we do have 5. If you will include the one that we put in here yesterday, which I am going to have to remove because someone was suggesting that we can't see it. We can't see it through the mesh or the grating or the little holes. So why bother? But you know what? Looking at it right now, and I'm not using my strong glasses, I can actually see something through there. Now, here's something else. I'll take this out later. It is funny how I know about something, but I forget to do it. Now, our friend Jason in the UK suggested, he says, why don't you anneal this brass so that it'll when you bend it into shape, it won't spring back. And that's true, it helps. So we're going to do that. I'm going to take the little part out of here because, I have to anyway. And then I'm going to try and heat this brass so that when we bend it in a shape, like I say, it won't spring back. I have a bad habit of repeating myself over and over again, don't I? Anyway, let's get on with that. You know, I was noticing the price on here. It was $2.99 for this container of propane. My goodness, that must have been a long time ago. I don't use this thing very often, but I do recall where I got that. One of our neighbors moved away, and they couldn't have anything flammable for some reason when they were moving, the way they were moving. So I guess they hired a moving company that says we won't take anything flammable. So they gave me a couple of these containers. There was this one, and I believe there was another one. And I've still got it, and my goodness, that must go back going on 30 years ago. So $2.99. I wonder what they are now. I remember when now this is I'm rambling again, but when I was a young teenager, my dad, to make a little extra money, he used to buy and sell propane, and at that time he used to sell it for $8 for a 100-pound tank, $8 a hundred. So that means that 1 pound of this propane would have cost $8 or 8 cents rather, but he used to get it for $6 a hundred and then sell it for $2 more per bottle. Back then that was, it wasn't that bad. But I was trying to figure out how could I refill these things. At that time I had one of these. I don't have the original tank anymore, but this is the valve and nozzle assembly and that I bought. Oh my goodness, I was probably about 17 years old. Did I say I'm rambling again? Okay, let's get on with this and try and anneal these things. Okay, I've got my torch lit here. And I've got it back down pretty near as low as I can get it. And I'm not going to go into a bunch of details about how there's a hot spot in the flame and further out towards the end it's not so hot. Well, now we're not going to want to be touching the photo etch part here with the hot spot, because not only is it going to anneal it, it's going to make it so that it's going to, you don't want to be bending it back and forth a whole lot, or you're going to break the part off. Also, if it's too hot, I found from experience, this photo etch will actually I don't know if it sort of melts or burns away because it's so extremely fine. Now, as I mentioned to Jason in my reply in the comments this morning, I said that it may darken this, and my thinking is that if this is dark and the little plastic guns that we're going to be sticking inside there are light, I'm thinking I may not have to paint. But we'll see how it goes here. I know that the tweezer is going to act like a heat sink, and we're maybe not going to, mind you, this is going to be down in the bottom anyway. Likely we're not going to see this part because this end here is going to be sort of aimed up. Anyway, let's give it a whirl here. Why don't I just shut up and apply some heat. Now, I don't know if you can see it there, but there's sort of like a little pinpoint of flame there. Okay, now I don't want to be getting that on the photo etch. I just want to get the end. Anyway, here we go. I got to concentrate on what I'm doing here. Ooh, I got too close there. Okay, well that did darken it, but not enough. I do believe though that the metal is annealed, and when it's probably cooled it down to the place where I can probably touch it now, and if I bend it a little bit, it should stay the way I bend it. Probably made a difference. This is the original box that this propane torch came in, and I don't know if this is the original igniter or if that one down there is. And it came with a couple of different things that you could solder with it and so on. But anyway, I'm sure you've seen these before. But there's an interesting story that goes behind this. And the story is, like I bought this myself, and I think I bought it in 1963 or maybe 1964. And when I got it, there was a price tag, but also written on it somewhere, and I can't remember where. It could be right there, but I'm not sure. In some kind of felt marker, there was a code, and it was a code of letters. And my dad figured out what the code was. Now this was bought in a little store in Saskatchewan, in a town called Big River, and the name of the store was Waite Fisheries. I think they're still in business, but I'm not sure. They'd be all computerized now. I doubt if they'd be writing stuff on their codes on their parts, on their stuff that they sold. It was a general store. They sold hardware, basic clothing, all kinds of stuff that would be in a little general store way back in the 60s in a little town in northern Saskatchewan. And so anyway, they were a little bit miffed with my dad because he figured out what the code was. And what it was is each letter represented a number. So not only did they have the price written on whatever it was, they also had written down what it had cost them. And as best I remember, I don't think I'm giving away any secrets now because this goes way back to the 60s, and I'm sure that doesn't mean a thing now, but the code was Black Hawk. And the B would represent, I guess, 1 or something like that, and so on all the way up the line. And yeah, that was kind of funny. Let's see, does that work out? BLACKHAW. No, that couldn't be right. Anyway, I think it was Black Hawk. Maybe it was something else. And anyway, they were mad at my dad because he had figured out what the code was and he let them know he knew what it was. I guess that was his big mistake. He shouldn't have told them that he knew. But it's kind of an interesting little story. But I do remember getting this. So, okay, my memory's not as good as it used to be. In fact, I don't know if it was ever any good. However, the word black was in there. It was black something. I know that for sure. How did we get onto this? Okay, let's see if we can do something here. Okay, here's my thinking on this. We have this, I don't know what you want to call it, sort of a join right here. You know, where the part comes together. And I'm thinking that if now this thing is going to be aimed up at almost a 45-degree angle. So I'm thinking that if we have this place that we have to either glue or solder together, well, we'd have to glue it because of the plastic part is already probably going to be in there. I can't think how we could solder this together, and in all likelihood, I'd end up filling those tiny little holes with solder. So why not have it so that? Let's see if I turn this over. So when we install it into the turret here, like this, it's going to be kind of aimed up at an angle. Have it so that the seam is at the bottom. Okay, then we'll fold this forward. Okay, now I'm thinking in terms of how do we paint this. Now it's kind of stuck in there. All right, so we're not going to really see that detailed backside, which is kind of too bad because it's textured really nice, and you can, it would be really nice if you see that, but because it's going to be up at an angle like this, unless you're really coming and looking at the ship from the underside almost, you're not going to see that, which is, like I say, it's too bad. So I don't know if I'm going to spray it or I'm going to try and sort of semi-dry brush it. I think what I'm going to do is first I'm going to see if I can brush paint on, and probably take about 2, maybe 3 coats, and put a coat on really thin. Oh boy, I don't know. I think I'm going to end up filling those holes over there. Those holes are so small, and the brush is going to, I better set up the airbrush. I better set up the airbrush. Okay, here's my thinking on this. I don't have any paint or anything in my airbrush yet. I'm going to use the Stynylrez. And let's say I've got one of these pieces stuck on the double-sided tape, and we got it rotating on our rotator here. All right. I've got the 0.5 nozzle in here. It should spray the Stynylrez okay. Now, I've never done this before, so I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I want to try it. Now, these pieces are going to be stuck down on this side here, on this end here rather, that is not going to be seen. All right, like that. Now we've sprayed our paint on. Now, immediately after I think I've got enough paint on there, like I will have sprayed, I release, excuse me, I release the flow of paint, but leave the air, and then bring the nozzle in nice and close, and blow out any places where the Stynylrez may have flooded in and plugged the holes. And in other words, it'll blow the holes out. I've never done this before. I don't know if it'll work. I might end up blowing the part right off of the block. But anyway, that's the plan. Spray from about 3-4 inches away until it gets just about right, and then Release the flow of spray, but leave the air on, and then go in nice and close and just blow out the holes. Have I repeated that enough? Okay, I realize that you can't see these very good. We will put the macro lens on after the stynylrez res has a chance to dry, and it's, you might say, shrunk down to about as, wrapped itself around the little crevices and holes and what have you as good as possible. I'm basically quite pleased with the way these turned out. My idea of spraying them and then blowing air through the holes to blow out the holes if they had got clogged, it kind of worked. The only one that I did on the rotator was the first one that you saw there, and it wasn't working out too well. So I did the rest manually. I just held them in my hand, and I just sprayed it probably from about I'm guessing 4 inches away. And then, I was having trouble with the stynylrez in the airbrush. I found that I had to find a sweet spot for the trigger, or for the whatever you call it. And if I went too far back, it wouldn't spray, and if I didn't go far enough out, in other words, there was a sweet spot. And once you found it, then it actually didn't go too bad. And I found that by just taking my time and not flooding it on right off the bat, you're going to see here. I can see it. You know what? Why don't I stop talking about it? I can't remember now which one of these was the first one, because I was noticing that I thought it did not get blown out as well as it could. But there are 6 of them, so we just picked the best 5. And being as it is the stynylrez, it's, it may be difficult to spray, at least for me. It will stick really well to the photo etch, especially being as that we annealed it there. That will have burnt off any grease or anything like that. So we got a really good adhering going on there. Anyway, I'll quit talking, and we'll come back at this after about an hour. In the meantime, I'm going to go edit some footage here. I remember saying something at the end of yesterday's episode about the fact that I'd seen a blue jay and I'd show it today. Well, it's sort of like once you've seen one blue jay, you've kind of seen them all. Now, I suppose if you're a bird watcher, you might be able to say, well, that's not the same one. However, to me, that's the same one we saw, 5 days ago? It's nice. I don't think it's showing itself as well as it did. Now, maybe if it would come around in the sun a little bit more. It did stick around a little bit longer. Anyway, now I've shown it to you. Now, it could be my imagination here, but I'm beginning to think that the smaller birds, like the sparrows and so on, which are the most prevalent by far, do not seem to be liking those large black oil sunflower seeds. They're just not going down. Whereas when I had the smaller seeds in, they went down a lot faster. Now, maybe it was a case of they got thrown out. I don't know. Anyway, I'm thinking of getting a second bird feeder and have one that has the small seeds in it and the other has the large. At least that's the plan. Now, I've been having a problem getting my exposure right a lot lately. I've noticed that a lot of my scenes are, you might say, kind of washed out. Like my hand it should be a little darker than that. But on the other hand, right now, what I'm doing is I want to get a background that is light so that we'll be able to see through the holes here. Probably the green tablecloth will be, right now I'm looking in the monitor, and okay, the macro lens will be looking much the same as we're looking right here. Okay, sort of thinking out loud here. Yeah, I used to be really good at getting the exposure right, and lately I've been, like I say, I'm overexposing. Okay, let's put the macro lens on. These things are not probably completely dry. I don't want to try and force our little guns inside yet, because I don't want to scratch the styrene off if it's not quite, you might say, cured. Okay, let's get the macro lens on here and have a look-see. Okay, I think I got our background just about right. And here's a case of where I sort of want it to be a little bit overexposed because the part is so dark. And anyway, I think you get the idea. I'm just going to quickly go through these here. I can't remember which was the first one that I thought we didn't do a very good job on. That might have been it there, because when I remember when I was trying to blow the holes out, I went a little bit too close and I actually blew the paint right off. Now you can clearly see here that after I blow the paint off, I do put it back on, so maybe this isn't the one. But on the other hand, maybe there's others that are like that too. I was just thinking about closing off today's episode, and then I realized, well, I haven't talked about the sunrise we had this morning. And I was mentioning it to one of the viewers this morning. It was actually Mark in Australia, and I was telling him we had a nice sunrise. Not spectacular, I said, but nice. Anyway, yeah, this was it. Like I say, not spectacular, but nice. I was just thinking here, we should be closing off today's episode with a sunset, not a sunrise. Now, what I could do is I could run the video in reverse. No, I don't think I'll do that. I like to keep it real. I like to keep it honest. I don't want to be deceiving my viewers, although I think I could probably get away with that one. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and all being well, we'll be seeing you tomorrow.